All right, we are live. This is episode 53 of the Deconstruction Podcast, brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction business. Let's kick it off, as we always do, with latest review here. This is coming from NextGen Heating and Cooling. It's an HVAC company in Toronto. Costa helped us get set up. The transition for our data from our previous software was flawless, and Jobtable is very user-friendly. Would recommend. Short and sweet. Shout out to NextGen.
Thank you, NextGen.
All right, so today we have a special guest, Carlo. He's the owner of Effect Electric, an electrical contractor in Ontario, Canada. He's a hands-on, experienced operator, business owner who's actually in the trenches, building a real electrical business, dealing with real customers, real crews, real problems. We're going to talk about all that, just what it actually takes to grow, manage, stay profitable, and keep things running clean in the trades. So, Carlo, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Carlo, what's going on?
If you don't mind, Carlo, just take a minute or two, introduce yourself.
I know the title says electrical contracting, but I've stepped aside to like a special niche of only dealing with Kohler generators for my residential installs and also commercial. And, we really enjoy doing building data racks, and for our commercial clients, if they're just moving in, they need to do all the jobs for all the computers and VoIP telephones, and we'll build their whole system for them.
Nice.
Amazing. So it kind of goes with it.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, like when we spoke last week, you mentioned that too. It's like you consider yourself more of a tech guy than a electrician.
I'm more of a backup guy. Like if we do servers for like any company, if you have a company, you should have your own server. So we do server build outs for companies and for most of our commercial clients, which I think in the very near future, I think residential, almost every home will need to have a server instead of paying these ridiculous monthly fees for storage.
Yeah. So would that fall more under
data? Like
data and comms, right? Yeah. Okay. But then the electrical aspect comes with that as well. Correct?
Yeah. Well, if it's a big commercial data rack, you're going to need to have a UPS battery backup, and you're going to need the electrical for your little, 30 amp, 40 amp twist lock receptacle.
Okay.
What made you pivot from electrical to the data side of things?
I was a techie computer typical nerd my whole childhood, and I figured that a good job to go into is being electrical, right? Because it kind of goes hand in hand, kind of. And when I got into electrical, I did enjoy it. It did kind of fit the shoe bill, right? So yeah, but then it kind of snowballed into doing more data and more computer stuff, anyways.
Yeah, it's funny with Jobtable, we work with like every trade across the board, but what we notice too is when you're dealing with different sub trades, the one trade that is often like open to exploring and learning about new technology is by far electricians.
Yeah.
There's a lot more opportunity. I guess I'm speaking for just electricians. I don't know if it's like that with anyone else though.
No, but like what he's saying is basically, when you speak to plumbers and like HVAC and a lot of these sub trades, it's like the common thing where it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, where we find electricians are typically, they're very open to new technology. They're very open to, I need something to run more efficient, right? And it's crazy because like your story, that's what we notice about a lot of electricians, is that they're typically very tech savvy. They're always looking for the new thing, want to use the newest technology, always trying to step up their game. And again, being a plumber, and I know we always go back and forth with our jokes, right? Like in trade school, but the reality is I have to give it to you guys. You guys are always more open-minded to always working more efficient, to finding a tool that's out there that will help manage and just make you more efficient, whether that's a tool on site, if that's a tool that you're using for your day-to-day operation, if that's a new product that came out. You guys are always looking for that, where I find, and I'll speak for plumbers on our end, we're very slow to the game, right? Like, I always use that terminology. We're like those old dogs that it's hard to teach us new tricks because we feel like we're in our comfort zone, right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. When you're in 2026 and,
That bite you in the ass.
yeah, like that's what it is. And that's what we kind of try to preach all the time, is that, even when we speak to companies and we're asking them to take a look at our software, and even if it's not our software, any other software, and, it's like, well, I've been doing carbon copies forever, or I use a spreadsheet, and it's like, yeah, like, look, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you're going to reach a plateau, right? And the reality is if you keep operating like this, there's this common saying where you've just, even though you're the owner of the company, you've just created a job for yourself. That's all you've done. You're not looking to expand. You're not looking to make things more efficient to a point where, like we were just talking off air, where you can step back and more manage from anywhere you are, instead of, having to, be on site, look at the job, run back to the office, pump out a bunch of quotes, print out papers, sit at your desk with a bunch of paperwork, trying to figure out what you've invoiced, what you haven't. It's not realistic when you're looking at, the technology that's out there today.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that is a friend of mine just started his own contracting business. He just became incorporated. And he came over with a bunch of paper and a pen, and I'm like, no, dude, everything's digital now, man. Don't even bring me a piece of paper.
Call Costa at Jobtable.
Yeah. So, Carlo, how long have you been in business now? When did you start the business?
2009 on my own.
Okay. All right, nice.
And the hustle and grind years nonstop was until pretty much 2 years ago. And then I decided, you know what, I don't need to do that anymore, so let's start slowing down and enjoying life a little.
And was that because of reputation? The work coming in was steady? What attributed to that?
I think from the very beginning, I never had this idea that I was going to build a huge company. It was more, I think, what most people think in the beginning, but they don't do. In 2009, all I want to do is make $100,000 on my own and have a little bit more time to myself. And then it ended up snowballing, like I'm sure it did for you guys, where, if you do good work and you meet enough good contacts, then you start saying yes to everything, and all of a sudden it's grown into this beast. And, the money's great and everything else, and I did what I needed to do to pay off the house, to, have a little good, nice cushion. But once all that goal is done, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah, I like that.
So
I think you don't hear that enough, right? I think with a lot of people who get into business, the natural thing is like, oh, I want to grow this business and have a bunch of employees and just, kind of what you see in the movies, right? But it's very rare to come across someone with that basically has self-awareness and like understands like, look, I don't want to be $1 billion company. I'm good making X amount.
Yeah.
I'll get there, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I got my two main contracts that I've had for 25 plus years, right? So, and then they just kind of came with me when I started my own business. And then everything else is gravy from the side of that. And when we used to do commercial plazas, that was like the hustle and grind years. Those are great, but then, what do you, if you don't say no, then when does it stop?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just
no, but
it's right for you.
It's right or wrong. I think it's just what your personal preference is, right? What you want, what your goals are.
Yeah, my goal
Also,
is
to what you can handle as a person.
April to mid-March to end of October, beginning of November, I'll hustle and grind like I did in the past, no problem. But from November till like March, I want to chill.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because we were talking about that before we hit record here. It's I think you're the only electrician I can think of off the top of my head who's not like a seasonal company, but in your case, you're talking winters from like December to March. You're in Florida, right?
That's the goal.
Yeah. So, talk about that. Like, how did you, like, when did you decide for yourself, like, come those months, you don't want to work, you want to be in Florida, and like, how did you kind of set yourself up
Well,
over the years?
I think if you don't go away enough, you get used to being an animal in Canada. Like you're a workaholic. The every day's the same, and you never get a break. And you think it's normal. But if you start going away and start looking at how life is everywhere else, you start saying, why the hell am I working so hard? Especially when you've got money for all the years that you've worked, you should have money stashed away, or your goals have been succeeded. So what are you doing it for? Like, how much is enough? Like, if your goal is $1 million a year, then yeah, you're probably gonna have to work 12 months a year.
Yeah, it's crazy you say that, because the three of us here, we always talk about it. Like I'm a big advocate. I like to go to Europe once a year, and I find it really resets my mind, because I feel like you said it's normal here to work like crazy. And listen, we're go-getters, right? That's why we are entrepreneurs. But at the same time, I feel like we lose track of the importance in life, which is, health, right? That's the number one, right? Like health is absolutely at the top there with, your family and your kids and experiences. And I find that when I go to Europe and I come back, my brain kind of rewires to be happy with what I have and the accomplishments that I have accomplished, instead of always looking at the accomplishments I haven't made yet and where I want to be. Now, it's good to have that drive and those goals to look forward to and to constantly strive to. But the reality is that, like you said, we all look at, okay, what's enough, right? When is it enough? Because sure, you can make all the money in the world, and I think we can all attribute to this. You can show me some of the richest people in the world, and they look like some of the most unhappiest people, and I think that's where the reality of like money can't buy happiness, because, I know everybody's going to say, well, the more money you give me, obviously I'm going to have happiness, because now I can go on these trips and not worry about, bills and stuff like that. No, that's true. But in order to upkeep that lifestyle, that's a crazy hustle and grind, right? And we all have that in us to hustle and grind, but the reality is when is enough where you can take a step back and just say, you know what, from this time to this time, this is my time, mine and my family's time. And I don't care what's going on in the world, nothing's going to change that, right?
I think as long as you have a plan, like you have to have a plan or it's never going to happen. So if you tell yourself that that you want to retire at 55, which is my number, well, you can't just hustle and grind every day like your company and then one day just turn it off. It's going to take a good decade to start doing the slowdown.
Yeah.
Carlo, let me ask you, you're a smaller size company, right? So you being in Florida for a few months out of the year, is that something you feel you're able to do because you are a smaller company? Like imagine you have 15, 20 guys. Can you see yourself still being away for that much time, or you don't think it's possible?
No, you definitely can, but will you enjoy your time there while you're still crossing your T's and dotting your I's? Because even when I'm there, I'm still crossing my T's and dotting my I's.
Yeah, so that kind of was leading me to my next question. When you're there, you obviously don't completely shut down. You're still working remotely.
No, yeah, no,
right?
I still work remotely and do my best to make all my existing customers happy. But again, that's me telling my existing customers, hey guys, I'm going away, and I'll do my best to help you out. And if I can't, I've got emergency backup that I can call and they'll take care of my customers.
And how do you run your company while you're away? What kind of tools do you use?
Well, I still have my 2 employees, and I still use my I obviously have my own server. So I have my own, it works exactly like Google Calendar, and they're logged in, and I build out their schedule, because usually we're about 8 to 12 weeks already booked. So they know what they're doing even if I'm here or not.
Okay.
So if they need any questions answered or anything, or they're stuck, they can still call me. I can still give them the answer. And but this year, I purposely gave them a heads up in like July of last summer and told them, hey, next Christmas and probably the following Christmases, I'm purposely going to shut her down, and you're going to not get uh, checks, like full-time checks. And maybe you should go away and enjoy a holiday.
Yeah. Let me double click on that a bit, right? Because, to actually execute that and be away for extended period of time in your industry, you obviously need systems in place, right? You mentioned you have a server, but like, talk about the system side of it. Like, what are some of the things you're implementing that allow you to do this?
Well, I cherry picked all the customers that could allow me to do this. So if you were like I was a company of 16 guys, well, I got rid of all the work that wouldn't allow me to do this. Like if you're doing a plaza, I guess you could if you had the right team, but I guess I didn't. So let's get rid of that customer. Like when I tell my other friends who are successful business owners that I cut off a couple huge contracts, they thought I was nuts because that's just something they would never do. But I,
Yeah.
I cut off all the extra fat, kept all the ones that I could make it work with, and scheduling everything on purpose for spring, summer, and fall in as little as possible in the wintertime.
Yeah. When you were making these decisions, though, did you did you have like the financial back, the stash put away, or were these like hard decisions in the moment where like you're like this is going to be hard for the next 6 months, a year, you're like taking two steps back to take four steps forward, or
Well, that's a good question because my first, I'd say my first 6 to 8 years, I'm hustling, I'm grinding, and then you look at the big picture and you realize that the money is not there. So what am I working this hard for? So I'm doing something wrong. So what I did was, like literally in the past eight years, instead of watching TV and watching series that everyone else watches, I literally eat, sleep, and shit finance and economics. Like that's my downtime. I daily look for newest and the newest info that I can learn. And then when I started pretty much putting all my effort into what do you do with the money that you made from your company? How do you invest properly? What are the best ways to get your biggest ROI on your money? Well, lo and behold, it actually worked. So then once I started having cash that I made with proper investments, which have nothing to do with running your company, well, now you can start planning, right? Now you can be like, okay, I don't need to work as hard as I can. Pretty much.
yeah. So
Make your
would you
dollars work for
attribute
you.
would you attribute this now to your investments? Like if you didn't like go into like economics and finance and like put your capital to work, would you have still been able to do that with just savings?
No, there's no way. I think honestly, I think that's where a lot of people, they have great work ethic and they know how to make money. They don't know what to do with the money.
Yeah. I think like I'd love to like explore that because like, there's a lot of business owners listening to this podcast who are successful, they're making money, and this is something that you don't often talk about, right? Like what do you do with that money? Like how do you be smart with it? Like what are
Every
some
year,
places?
every year the game changes. The government changes the rules, and you have to adapt to the game, right? So currently, right now, the only thing for a Canadian that's beneficial is a TFSA until they one day realize that they're broke, more broke than they already are, and they're gonna probably change the rules on that and try to put a capital gains on something for that, right? But until that day comes, really the only thing that you have that's the most beneficial as a Canadian is having a TFSA. So that's not your, it's not that should be your number one, you know, weapon to use to start building something.
Yeah. And do you like are you talking like ETFs, stocks, or
Yeah, I mean, from what I've learned, yes, definitely ETFs. Again, if you're Canadian, then you start learning that if you start buying American stocks, there's a withholding tax because you're not American, and then you still got to pay capital gains on the IRS side. So you want to stick to only buying Canadian ETFs that invest in American stocks.
right?
What about Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, you gotta it's called diversification, right? So you definitely should have. I'm a techie geek, so that's a no-brainer for me.
I just asked. That's why I thought it was right up your alley.
Oh,
I think
but
we were
then
one. I think we were one of the first software companies in our field to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment, right?
yeah,
And some people were praising us, and some people thought we were crazy. So, I thought I'd ask the question because I find it aligns perfectly with, your views.
yeah. If someone's saying to diversify your portfolio is to buy bonds, I think that's the old school mentality. And in 2026, diversification is buying crypto.
I
Never go
like it.
all in. Never go all in on one thing, but definitely have something.
I like it. Yeah, we were just talking this morning too. The price of silver, as you
Another
know,
one. Another one.
another
Yes.
one. Yeah,
Gold and silver, fantastic.
yeah.
So how long do you, how many more years do you have, like in your horizon before
Well,
you mentioned
compared, so
55?
I mean, as an owner, we all know that we work like 100 hours a week every week, right? So if I can slow down just in the wintertime, I consider that for me semi-retirement, even though I'm still putting in more hours a year than the average person,
Yeah,
right? So I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, pretty much I'm content with just having my time on in the winter. I don't mind hustling and grinding spring, summer, and fall.
yeah. Okay. How do you how do you manage stress in the day to day?
I think that comes with age. I'm a lot more calmer. I'm a lot more of a better, clear thinker now, dealing with stress. And like you said, nothing is more important than your health. So diet, taking the time. Like I go to a spa at least once a month. I try to go to a spa at least once a month,
Hmm.
Amazing.
and that makes me feel incredibly relaxed for at least 24 hours. Like nothing else will, which is
Yeah,
better than nothing.
Yeah, and I think it takes a lot too for business owners to realize that we also need these cues to de-stress because we carry the weight of our families, of everything on our shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And we're always trying to, especially as, let's just call it the men of the house, we're always trying to navigate the best possible outcome.
Hmm.
But while you're managing a bunch of, let's just say, doesn't matter whether you have two guys or whether you have, 100 guys, you have the weight of the company that obviously it all comes down to, the direction of you. You have the weight of the family that all comes down to the direction of you. Having kids, the way you carry yourself coming home, right? This all has to feed into that. So, like you said, going to a spa once a month, right? I know Charlie's a big advocate. He goes for massages and I remember when we were younger, we used to laugh at this, right? And it's like, oh, come on, like pull up your pants, let's go. But the reality is like, man, you do it for long enough, you know, you're going to see how much you need it, right? The reality.
Carlo, you made a great point. When you're in it, you really get sucked into this zone where you don't realize that you're just a workhorse. You're just going and going and going. And it's not until you go away. And for me, every single time it's the same. It's the drive back from Pearson Airport. Every fucking time. It's the same feeling where it just like the world crashes on me. Like, what the hell am I doing back here? Why am I even here? Why am I in traffic? Why am I putting myself through this? And for me, anyways, I can only speak for myself, but it seems to be getting harder and harder every trip I come back from. So I'm nearing the point where you're at, I think, where I have to make some kind of move because it's affecting me mentally, right? Now, I guess, I would ask you if you had any advice for anyone to kind of pull the trigger on making that move where you can kind of spend a few months away from the country. Obviously, it's a little different for you because you have a smaller size company, but just any advice as a contractor to another contractor that's kind of on the fence or just doesn't think it's possible, what would you tell that person if you could give them some advice?
Anything is possible. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all doing it to get money. At the end of the day, that's what we're killing ourselves for, is to get money. So if you don't know how money works and you don't know what to do with the money that you made as a profit margin, well, you're pretty much wasting your time.
Educate yourself.
100%.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, we talk about like investments and being smart with that. You know, to me, what's in my opinion, what's more valuable than making a return on investment, like on the financial side, is is time. Like time is much more valuable as a commodity than money, right?
Yeah.
So how do you buy back your time that allows you to you know, free up time, travel, um, you know,
Honestly, I think you have to hustle and grind for at least a decade. Like you have to do that's a sacrifice that we have to do for our families. Like I kick myself and hate myself for missing my kids as babies, but now I get to enjoy a little bit more time than the average father with them now, and they're you know, they're 12, and you know, I get to spend more time now, but I had to sacrifice my time with my kids when they were babies.
Yeah, and I think that's a key. I think that's a key element to this conversation that we're having today too, is that as much as we all want that freedom to be able to step back from a company or whatever, you still have to put in your time, just as a tradesman, right? A lot of people look at it and they say, oh, you know, plumbers, electricians, they make good money. Yeah, but we had to eat shit to get to where the level that we're at, right? And again, the trades that the era that we came through was more of the old school guys, right? Where now a
Yeah.
lot of this, you know, the stuff you can and cannot say on site or to your employee or to, you know, your fellow worker or whatever, you're not able to be as, let's just say, as explosive as we once were.
Yeah.
So I think that is the key, though, that you know, I think our listeners should take from this conversation as well, is that even though everything we're talking about is crucial and essential to running, you know, a business, no matter what your outlook is, but the reality is let's not forget that, you know, let's say you become licensed and you want to start a company. This is not going to happen overnight. Like, you still need to grind the shit out of it. You need to put up those sacrifices and then one day reap the benefits, right? Because we've had this conversation a couple of times because I know we were talking about investments, right? But the reality is somebody starts a company, they make a little bit of money, and they're looking at it because they want to grow the company a little bit more so that they can take on more work to make a little bit more money. But they're also looking at, like, okay, where can I invest? Well, first things first is you need to reinvest into your company so that you can grow to that decent size. Once you get to a certain, let's say, stage or platform that you feel comfortable with, now you can start playing with the money, right? And I think there's a big misconception between the two. I don't know if you agree, Carlo, but yeah, like you have to reinvest, you know, with the tools, the trucks, the, you know, whether it's the shop or whatever the case may be, to build that infrastructure in order to you know, be able to sustain or one day live that lifestyle like you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's perfectly said. And I think the most frustrating part as a young person today, because most people that are starting their company, they're pretty young. They've got the stress of probably the biggest mortgage at the beginning of their life with all the bills running a company, and there is no extra money to invest, and there's not supposed to be any extra money to invest at that stage.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think honestly the best advice for anybody who's just starting is to pay off as much debt as you can. Your shoulders will be a lot lighter not carrying that much debt.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, well said.
Yeah. I think the most important thing you said was, you know, a lot of people, they say it's like, you know, once I reach this spot or my company's making this amount of money, then I'm gonna, you know, take a step back.
They don't.
Like you got to really plan for that. Like
Yes.
that just doesn't, you can't just flick a switch and wake up the next day and be like, okay, I'm going to Florida for 3 months.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
there's a lot of planning involved.
Yeah.
You got to
And
really set the pieces in play, put the pieces in motion, and really execute that.
And also too, it's also the mental aspect of it too, right? If you're used to going 100 miles an hour constantly, day in, day out, any monetary goal that you reach is not going to all of a sudden make you think you can just step away from it and turn your brain off and slow down, right? I think there's a lead up to it.
especially if you're just constantly using your profits from one job to support the next job, then the wheel never stops. You literally have to have a plan where you are going to take a certain percentage, put it aside. I'm going to slow it down in for 1 month. I'm not saying start off with 3 months off right away, but even just taking 2 weeks off at Christmas time. Like when everyone wants to stay around home to spend around family, but it also is the best time to go away on vacation for work. So, time to leave
Yeah.
and tell everyone I won't be here for Christmas.
Yeah. What about the flip side to this? 17 years now in business, you kind of set yourself up in this way, clearly made some good moves, investments. What about, are there anything you regret investing in or spending money on?
I wish I didn't waste so much time my first 9 years and ended up doing what I'm doing for the past 9 years, which is instead of spending time watching TV and shows and going out, I should have been learning about economics and investments and how it all works and, becoming really good friends with your accountant.
Mm. Yeah, makes sense. Makes
Well
sense.
said.
You said right now you have it's just you and one other employee?
Well, two.
Two.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my one employee's been with me for 11 years and he's in the stages, he's going to plan on starting his own company this year.
Okay. All right, nice.
So you've really put the wheels in motion to just really take a step back and just be very selective on who you're working with. And I think Costa, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the episode right before this where we talked about knowing your niche, knowing your client. And sometimes,
And I watched that episode and you're correct.
yeah, and it's like, look, like I have a book here that I kind of want to share. I don't know if, but there's somebody that, recommended a book to us, somebody who's a very good friend of ours on the show. And it's true. Like you read this book that he recommended and it's called My Client is a Cunt. And it's all about knowing when to fire your own client. It's not just about the client firing us. In the end of it, I always say it, as a blue collar, they look at us like we need them. And truthfully in business, we do, right? We need the clients. But at the same time, they need us just as bad because they don't have, if they're not respectable to us, you're not going to get what you need. You're not going to get that building. You're not going to get that house. You're not going to get that data center, right? So it's the respect and knowing your clients and knowing how you can fit together where it's beneficial for you and it's beneficial for them. Where a lot of people, they're just yes men. And I get it. At the beginning, you have to be, right? Like this is the reality too, Carlo. We should be honest with the listeners too, is in the beginning, yeah, you gotta put your head down. You gotta eat shit. You gotta grind hard. Fortunately, 95% of the times you do have to be a yes man. But once you reach a stage, it's like you said, and I think it's a very powerful that you need to start putting a plan and steps in motion to be able for your business to fit within the lifestyle that you want to live.
Yeah.
I think that's extremely important, just as important as, like Costa said, building a $1 billion business.
Yeah, and I think those years of being a yes man and eating shit is the reason why a huge percentage fail and quit running their own company.
Yeah. Well, I have a little bit. I have a little bit to add on to that one too. I believe that some of those companies fail because, truthfully, they're amazing at what they do. Whether they're an electrician, a plumber, a framer. I just think that they don't have the stomach for business, right? And I think there is a huge difference between being an incredible tradesman, but then being a business owner, right? I always say it. Like we own a plumbing company. It's not like I'm excited about plumbing, right? I'm excited about business, right? That's what I feel. I feel like becoming a licensed plumber and a master plumber then led into that was my schooling to become, get my PhD in business, let's just say, right? I don't even have high school. I didn't even finish high school, but I feel like that was my schooling. I had to start early. My brother always gave me this saying, like I said, I'm the youngest out of all four brothers. And my brother always had this saying that if the brain doesn't want to work, the body's got to suffer. So if your body's suffering for long enough, you got to start kicking in your brain to be able to do what you're doing. Take a step back and start enjoying life without missing the aspect of being able to afford the lifestyle that, you're trying to create.
I mean, yeah, and if you put yourself in a situation where you've got so much leverage against you, well, then you're not gonna end up having that luxury anyways. Because I mean, there's a lot of mixed messaging that's been going on for the past, I don't know, 10 years, where a lot of people are like, yeah, leverage your assets and get a loan and do this and do that, and I am not that guy. So I don't think that's the right message. I don't think that's the right way to do things, and I'm doing it my way.
Yeah, and I think if we look back at 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, that was the game plan. Like you said, the game's ever evolving, right? When interest rates, when money was pretty much free, sure, it was a good idea. But now that interest rates are where they are and how they keep climbing, they're very volatile. I think the game plan is pay, like you said, pay off as much as you can, because you want to be as close to debt free as possible right now. Don't go out and get that brand spanking new truck, with $100,000 price tag. Right? If you got to finance it, probably doesn't make sense at times like this when you're trying to build.
Higher the interest rate, higher the ROI on your investment. So I am happy when they raise the interest rates.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, speaking on that, like a little bit, like, I feel like the times have changed, right? Like just in general, in terms of how you operate. Like we all have kids. Again, we were talking offline about like education and all this. We're living in an age, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize this, but like we're like, what was the old playbook? Like us growing up, it's like,
College, university.
go to school, get your credentials, follow instructions, trade time for pay, all this stuff. And like we are past that. Like we are living in like that industrial age is behind us. Like we're now living in this like information intelligence age, right? Where information is abundant. Like now, like technical skills, especially like digital skills, like these are the real commodities. Like you don't need these traditional credentials and schooling. And it's frankly, it's I think it's never been easier to make money today than ever before, without having to go through that traditional route.
Imagine if we had YouTube when we were kids.
Yeah, that's for sure, and that's just like a small part of it. Yeah.
But sometimes just to play the other side of that, it's true. Imagine if we had that, but would our character be who we are if we didn't grow up in the era we did, right? Like I always say, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, we were still raw, right? We played outside, sure, we watched TV and the movies, stuff like that, but it's not like it is today. It's not like the way our kids are growing up, right? Like right now, it's much different, and as much as I do wish we had some of these, let's just say, technologies at our fingertips and what we could have done with it, I just don't think it would have built the grit that I would say our generation does have, right? There's something, getting back to how much money you make and trading it for time and stuff. There's something about where it's like, look, I'm enjoying the path that I'm on. Yes, we have shit days, we have shit months, we have shit years, but that's the only way to learn, right? And I always come back to, look, like I said, I didn't finish high school, and I always attribute what I've learned by going out, failing, getting up, and trying again, right? Learning from your mistakes and trying again, instead of sitting in a classroom for 5 years, 7 years, 3 years, whatever it is in university. And I don't take nothing away from the people that went through university, because I know somebody like Costa, he even says that going through the university actually like built his character, right? Not what he took, let's just say, but built his character. And I say going through the trades at such a young age and the way, you know, a lot of us grew up, I feel like that's what gave us our character as well, right? So
Yeah, yeah. You know, I started in '96 in construction, and you know, they pretty much spit on us when we said that we were going to go to construction instead of college or university. And you don't even comprehend why they had that mentality in the first place at that time.
Now I think it's a total opposite.
Oh,
Wait another 10 years,
yeah.
you'll probably spit on someone for saying they're going to go to university. Like, what the
Well,
hell are you doing that for?
I'm already prepping my boys for to get into the trades. They know that. You know, this summer they're going to work more than last summer, and so on. And they pretty much don't have a choice in my house. They're going to do something in the trades, and if they want to do anything else, they can do it, but they won't be living here.
Yeah. How old are your boys?
They're only 12 and 10, and I started when I was 16. So like this summer, I told my 12-year-old, you're gonna be working a lot this summer, and it's just something that needs to be done whether you like it or not. And then when you're 18 or 19 and you're done high school, you can make whatever decision you want, but you should be licensed or almost licensed by then. And if it isn't in the trade, good luck to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
I'll be honest, we do a lot of work in colleges and universities, and we have a few going on right now. And I've noticed an abundance of immigrants that fill the hallways. Like I don't really see Canadians in these colleges anymore, right? And to Costa's point, fast forward 10 years, I don't think anybody's going to go.
No, they're gonna dangle a carrot. You know, the government's gonna pay for it to. I mean, everything's subsidized, right? So by the government here, so they don't have a job if no one goes. So I'm sure they're gonna, you know, do a new program that doesn't benefit us but benefits the schools.
it just doesn't make sense. Like I actually just read an article a couple days ago that said Gen Z, I can't remember the age group of Gen Z, but Gen Z, Gen Z have, with college degrees, have the same unemployment rate as people who didn't go to school.
I'm surprised it's not lower.
So am I actually, but that alone, the fact that it's at parity, you know, it just kind of shows you that like there's really there's not much benefit to going to university.
Well, you know what? If you meet anybody who didn't finish high school or just had high school and you're having a conversation like we're having right now, I'll hire him any day or her any day over someone who's prim proper and is a liberal retard that came out of university.
Yeah, I'm
I like
hard
it.
to disagree with that.
I like it. Look, and you know, I know everybody's different. I always say too, like I have two girls and a boy, and I'm always trying to instill, you know, they're still younger, but I'm trying to instill, you know, being a boss, being an owner, running your own show. But I feel like there is a place for, I want to say more university, well, college and university, because we do have to go to college for trade school anyways as well. But you know, unless you want to become like a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, you know, something like that. Okay, you know, like definitely I will help you get through the schooling, you know, and make sure you know, you go on that path, because those are extremely, you know, good jobs as well. But also too, yeah, there's just something I always feel like once you become an entrepreneur, it's almost hard to work for somebody else that depicts your future. You know, what you're going to make, when you're allowed to be somewhere, what time. There's something to that too, that I don't know, you know, getting back to like how much is enough, right? How much is enough? And like you said, for what you're doing right now, being in control of, I'm working until this time. After that, I'm gone for 3-4 months. My clients know it. I'm telling you, you know, so somebody that makes double what you make, let's just say, you know, hypothetically, I guarantee if you were to put those options in front of them, they'd probably take the option that you're taking, right? Like money is not the end all be all.
And the only reason why I'm going to continue with my plan as long as I planned it is because of my boys. Right? If I didn't have any kids, I would already be semi-retired, and I wouldn't, and I would stop working way sooner,
Yeah.
or doing something
Does
else. Not stop working, but I would do something else.
that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what does retirement, when you say retire, like retired, what does that mean to
The
you?
definition of retirement to me means doing whatever you want.
Yes. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Sometimes when I get a kick out of someone, it's like, oh, when you meet someone new, it's like, oh, what do you do? Sometimes if I'm in the mood, like, oh, I'm retired, just to get the reaction, and it's like, oh, what do you mean? But like my definition of retirement is exactly like yours. Like I can make the argument that I'm retired right now because I'm doing exactly what I want to do every day.
If
You
you can
know?
do whatever you want when you want it, you are retired.
Yeah, I agree. Very good. Um, Look, Carlo, I do want to be mindful of your time. We always ask at the end if you can put on a billboard that every business owner, trade owner, construction owner could see on a billboard, what would it say? The message.
Learn about money. Nothing is more important.
I love it.
Can't run a business without learning about money.
Love it. This was great. This was great. If anyone wants to like reach out to you, where's the best place to do that?
Carlo at effectelectric.com.
Awesome. Awesome. No, this was fun. I'm glad this conversation went the direction it did. I think this kind of switches it up and gets people thinking in different ways, hopefully. So really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insights.
Yeah, I mean, if more Canadians actually learned how much we're getting raped in Canada compared to the USA in taxes and capital gains, maybe it'll put a fire under their ass to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it,
We
man.
are getting raped.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Well, with that,
You know what though? The problem is, Carlo, in Canada, the word rape is usually one party is not willing, right? And I feel like Canadians these days are more than willing to bend over and take it. So I don't know if you can call it rape anymore.
Yeah,
That's a good point, Charlie. Yeah.
yep, perfectly said.
that's fair. That is fair. All right.
I
Well,
really enjoyed this conversation,
yeah.
Carlo. It was a good insight. It's a good change on some of the guests that we have. Even though we all are very aligned, like-minded, in the trades, it's nice to see all walks of the way people have the outlook on business. So I hope a lot of people listening got some good insight on a different way of looking at what an end goal looks like. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And if you're a construction company owner looking to streamline your processes, set the systems in place that will allow you to be in Florida or anywhere else for months at a time, check out jobtable.com, sign up for a 14-day free trial, and get your ducks in a row. And subscribe wherever you're listening. Make sure you don't miss a future episode. Carlo, thanks again, man. We'll be in touch.
Thanks,
Carlo, pleasure to
Thank
meet
you.
you, man. All the best.
Thank you.